Brandon Covey, he got his degree in bass and composition. I'm sure he destroyed the bell curve for his fellow students. He's a brainiac. He's played for Indre, John Yany, Julia Taylor. He's played for me. He played in Yankee Bravo a long time ago. Now, most recently, Neil Zaza. It's such a fun name to say. In the near future, he's going to be doing more for Tosca Abigail. His solo project, Reflections, he did here and Hope for Tomorrow. Here's some of the things that Brandon has been working on here.
Brandon, hi.
Hello.
I'm very familiar with your bass work.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit about how did you get started with the bass?
Oh, that was 7th grade. My friend and I wanted to start a Blink-182 cover band. He already had a guitar, so I had to get a bass. And it never happened, but the intent was there.
Have you dabbled with other instruments, but you love the bass, or has it just been all bass?
Yeah, I started with bass. When I went to school for music, I did a lot of, I did some classical guitar, some piano, but it always came back to bass.
Yeah, I'm curious about Reflections. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, that was the first album that I did here. It was my first solo album. It was really cool because I think everybody here has already talked about they've had some really deep conversations with Ron just here at the studio. But I met him at Wide-Eyed Life. We got talking there, and then he wanted to do some recording. So that's kind of how the album started. The theme of that album was just kind of turning tragedy into art. It was intended for people to kind of relate to. And since it was instrumental, anybody can kind of make up their own meaning behind it. So my intent was to kind of help them feel those more vulnerable emotions. But what ended up happening was I would get calls and people would say hey, I listened to this album and it got me, really, in tune to whatever I was doing, whether it was they were trying to meditate. There was a person that was a massage therapist. He told me that he was playing it while he was working on his clients, and they would tell him that it really kind of set a good space for them. Some people told me that they, before they studied, they would listen to it. So it turned into way more of a deeper concept than I thought it was going to, but it was really cool, really special album to me still.
Yeah. How did that shape you musically going forward?
I've never been really good with words. So with music, that's just kind of how I was able to really communicate. So when I write, I do a lot of musical metaphors that not a lot of people pick up on, or I don't really intend for them to. But for example, if I'm feeling very conflicted, I'll, kind of end something on a really dissonant chord just to kind of let it kind of breathe out a little bit and kind of leave some unsteadiness. But really, it's just kind of helped me say what I want to say without using words.
Yeah, which is very powerful. Yeah, absolutely. Talk a little bit about, currently playing with Neil Zaza. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So there was a band I was playing with called Ravenwood, and the lead singer of that, Joe Vitelli Jr., he was connected with Neil Zaza, and he would do some guest performances with us when we played. And it started with, there was a Christmas show that Neil wanted to do that never got to see the light of day, unfortunately, because of COVID, but he asked me to be a part of that. So that's how we got connected. And then, later down the road, the bass player that he had also did all of the production. He did the booking for the shows and stuff like that. So he wanted to take more of backseat and do that. So then that opened the opportunity for me to play bass with him. So that's kind of how we started. But it's been really cool working with him.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, I actually got introduced to his music, and I was actually a fan of his. So to be able to actually play with somebody that you were a fan of back in the day is really cool.
That's crazy, man.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
wild. Yeah. Talk about your session work here. How do you approach working with each artist when it comes to electric bass or upright bass? How does that work for you?
Sure. So what I like to do is I feel like if people reach out to me, or if Ron reaches out and puts us together and he thinks that it's going to be a good fit, I kind of trust that whatever I bring to the table is going to be kind of what they're wanting. So what I typically do is I'll listen to the songs, I'll make a chart out just to kind of get the form down. And I try not to come super prepared, because I know that people are probably going to have different directions that they want to go. So I kind of come with a loose idea. I'll play intuitively what I think should be there, or what I would just want to do, and then just kind of leave it open to them, kind of if they have any feedback.
Yeah, it's great to have a nice skilled bass player. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer the electric bass or the upright bass?
Definitely electric's a lot easier to carry around.
That's great. How do you know when, to guide the song in which direction, whether it's electric or upright?
Usually people will say like, hey, I want upright on this. Sometimes people ask me if they prefer electric or upright, and I never really thought about what makes me make that decision. It's just I just kind of hear both of them in my head and kind of just kind of go with what I think would sound better.
Yeah. What are you currently working on? I know you're working with Neil Zaza. Anything else going on?
Yeah, currently working with Neil Zaza. I'm still writing my own solo bass stuff.
You are? Great.
I've got a few just kind of on the back burner that I'd like to get to an album someday. In the last year and a half, I had a son and started a new job, so I'm kind of focusing more on that stuff right now. But hopefully, like once he gets into school and everything, I get more free time. Definitely want to get back into recording more.
What does this place mean to you, Realgrey?
Quite a bit. It's just a vibe all of its own. Like, you typically kind of, I think it was John was saying, studio work can be very intimidating, mm-hmm. but there's always just such a good vibe here. And Ron is just so deep, and he just sees all of the good in every person that comes in.
It's nice to have a dependable bass player. I know that Ron describes you as dependable and prepared. Yes. How important is that?
Extremely.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in this room, we're all musicians, we're all artists, so we take our work really seriously. So anytime somebody asks me to be a part of their project, it's not something I take for granted. So I want to come in and I want to, be able to, just kind of give them what they want.
Brandon, it's so great to finally meet you.
You as well.
Yeah, and look forward to hearing more of your bass work. So.
Thanks so much.